Hello, and welcome to the Paranormal Operator Podcast, where we talk about all manner of things that go bump in the night. Here, we discuss sightings, investigations, news, and popular media surrounding the paranormal, supernatural, and occult phenomena. So settle in as we search for the truth. I am your host, Adam, Operator 23.
Alright, so before we begin today, I just want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast, and I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. So, as you probably can tell, my audio quality is not the best. Unfortunately, it is the best that I can do at the moment. A bit has changed since the last time you've heard me on the airwaves. Previously, I was in North Carolina, and now I am in Georgia. So I've dropped a few lines of latitude and have a new living situation. Still don't have a work situation as of yet. So I don't unfortunately have a schedule for my podcast, but as soon as I can get a job here and with a steady schedule, I'll be able to try to work the podcast in around that. So for the people who have subscribed and have shared and followed my stuff, again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know I've been on a hiatus for quite a bit now, and my previous job, it was a lot of work, and it was pretty much go the whole time. And hopefully with this next job that I find, I'll have a bit more time to do my podcasts. And I have a lot of places that are on my to-do list as far as getting around, investigating, and doing research on. And I am in Brunswick, Georgia now, currently, and there's a ton of stuff around here. And I'm not even talking, Savannah. Savannah's got a ton of stuff, but Brunswick's got a ton of stuff too. And so Brunswick's actually my hometown, and hopefully this will be growing, getting bigger, and I hope that you guys continue to follow my stuff. You like it, share it, subscribe, all those good things help the algorithm, even though the YouTube algorithm might not be my friend at the moment, just because YouTube is doing weird stuff. Again, I just want to thank you, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Let's get into it. In today's episode, a call for paranormal experiences. Spook lights. Will California become the first to declare an official state cryptid? UFOs over Turkey, and a new push for disclosure in the U.S. House of Representatives. Space weather. And lastly, an article from the world of parapsychology. Our first article comes to us from the West Virginia News. And it is from February 19th, entitled West Virginia Folklife Center Seeks Paranormal, Cryptid, and Ghost Stories for New Publication. There is the Frank and Jane Gabber West Virginia Folklife Center at Fairmont State University. So, the Folklife Center at Fairmont State University, in collaboration with the Paranormal Podcast Group and the Moth Boys, is seeking submissions for paranormal, supernatural, and cryptid stories for their upcoming zine. That's a new word for me. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not, but I had until here. Apparently, it's a small, independent published booklet with highlights, creative, and niche content. Again, it's like they just took magazine and dropped the mag off of it. But apparently it's a word. The title of this publication will be The Ghosts of Ruth Ann and Other Local West Virginia Lore. And the publication will showcase eerie tales and folklore from contributors across the state. And submissions will be taken through March 25. So you get a little bit over a month to get it in if you are in the West Virginia area and you would like to submit your experience or story, or even artwork to these folks. The goal of the project is to collect and preserve new local lore from at least 5 West Virginia counties, said Lydia Warren, director of the Folklife Center. We plan to have the design completed in July, and free copies will be available at the Folklife Center, as well as given to the local libraries. So that's pretty cool. So, if you're in the West Virginia area, or if you have some stories from West Virginia, I'm sure that they would absolutely love to hear from you. You can submit your story here at the email on the screen. It's wvfolklife@fairmontstate.edu. And kind of in the same vein of this particular article, I would also like to come out and ask people that if they wouldn't mind sharing their stories with me, I would be more than happy to hear them. And you can reach out to us at Paranormal Operator 23. That's Paranormal Operator, and then the numbers 23.com. Or rather, you can email us at paranormaloperator23@gmail.com. If you go to our website, right here at the very top, it says make a report. Just click that right there, and then it'll take you to our reporting form. And the reason why I'm putting that in is not only because, obviously, we want to hear from you, but also because, especially if you're in southeastern Georgia, I am currently working to help assist organize the Southeast Georgia Ghosts and Legends Conference. And things are kind of looking up. Things are shaping up. We're very hopeful that it will happen this year in August, prospectively August 23rd. And we're looking for people who want to tell their story, If you have a story and you live in southeastern Georgia, or you have a story about southeastern Georgia, hit us up. I would really love to be able to talk to you, pick your brain, and just, get your side of the paranormal. All right. So talking of southeastern Georgia, and I hope that I'll be able to get some people from this study here. So you may or you may not have heard of a phenomena known as spook lights. So spook lights, also sometimes called ghost lanterns, are little balls of light that are typically seen around railroad tracks. And what's weird is a lot of these places, and I've only looked into a couple of different places, but the lore, the history behind them doesn't really seem to go back very far, only 100 years or so. But it well before the advent of cars, so it's not obviously someone looking through the woods and seeing headlights. Well, this article here, they think that they might actually have figured out what it is that people are seeing. So this comes to us from livescience.com. It is entitled Creepy, quote, Ghost Lanterns, end quote, in South Carolina are not what they seem, study suggests. And this came out February 15th. The Somerville Ghost Lanterns have mystified locals for generations, but geologists may have finally cracked the case. They might have figured out what they are. And this is actually a fairly popular theory as to what spook lights might be, and it is possible. I'm not going to rule it out. So, Somerville, South Carolina, has been haunted by mysterious ghost lanterns for decades. Now, a scientist thinks she finally worked out what the floating orbs are. Turns out they could be linked to tiny earthquakes. So, the theory goes that essentially you have tectonic plates, right, which is in itself a theory, and they are exerting a lot of force on one another. And all of that pushing and shoving and subverting and whatnot is going to cause a lot of energy to build up, a lot of electricity, and so that could be what people are seeing. It is not clear exactly when the floating orbs were first seen in the area, but references mostly date back to the mid-20th century. The lights are described as small glowing spheres, often blue or green, seen floating above a narrow stretch of Sheep Island Road, which is in Somerville, where an old railway line used to run. Witnesses also reported cars shaking violently, strange whispering, and occasionally ghostly apparitions. So these last couple of things are a little bit harder to explain. I'm not sure how she fits that into the theory, and I really kind of wish that it went a bit more into it. I mean, obviously the shaking cars, that could definitely be an earthquake. And the strange whispering, that could be gases escaping from the ground. I tell you, one of the creepiest places you want to hear whispering is in a marsh, especially on the coast, because in the evening you usually have a decent breeze. If you're on the coast, you have the sea breeze or the land breeze. And I've spent quite a few nights camped out right near the marsh, and I will tell you that you would swear on a stack of Bibles that people are in the marsh whispering. It is like the creepiest thing ever. So, also in the surrounding area, locals have described slamming doors, the sound of footsteps, disturbed animals and birds, objects moving as if of their own accord. So now that also could be tied into earthquakes, because we do know that a lot of animals can sense earthquakes before they happen. And obviously, doors slamming, right? If your car is going to shake, your house is going to shake. And if your door is not hung perfectly plumb, well, it very well could slam. The sound of footsteps, that could be just the creaking of the floorboards. If your house is going through an earthquake and it's flexing, okay, I get that. And then the objects coming, moving around on their own. Again, if your house is moving, the objects in your house are also moving. And now, Susan, I don't know how you say that name, and I do apologize, but I'm just going to call her Susan because I don't want to mispronounce that. A seismologist from the U.S. Geological Survey has extensively studied these reports and concluded that the mysterious orbs may be explained by a rare geological phenomena known as earthquake lights. According to the USGS, earthquake lights are glowing spheres, sparks, and streamers that thought to occur in an area before, during, or immediately after earthquakes. So, interesting. They have never been studied or confirmed systematically because virtually all of the data / observations are anecdotal, but lights during earthquakes have been reported for many years, Susan told Live Science in an email. I'm going to see if I can't reach out to Susan here. One of the most widely accepted explanations for this phenomena is the ignition of underground gases, such as methane and radon, as they seep out of the ground during increased seismic activity. All that's needed is a spark generated by static electricity or moving rock. Now, one thing that they don't mention here, or at least if they do, I must have overlooked it, is something called the piezoelectric effect. So basically, if you take quartz and you put it under pressure, or you generate force upon it, it will conduct electricity. So it's very possible that the piezoelectric effect could play into that static electricity as well. Now, Somerville, I'm not entirely sure how humid it gets there. I would imagine very, but I don't know. I don't really see a lot of static electricity, especially not outside in high humidity. But I could be wrong. Susan said that this explanation was particularly appropriate for the Somerville ghost. Her findings were published January 22nd in the journal Seismological Research Letters. So I'll bring that up. You can see the URL. And they do have earthquakes. Here, August 1959, there was a magnitude 4.4 earthquake that was recorded only about 2.5 miles from the actual place where the lights are usually seen. I mean, that's close. And then by the end of 1960, there were 2 smaller earthquakes that had also been reported in the area. So there is seismic activity going on. And while the hypothesis remains speculative, Susan said that it could be tested by measuring gas emissions from the ground in the area where the ghosts are seen. Sensors could also look for active faults in the region. So, interesting. I would see what this pulled up. Alright, so here we go. Here's the URL. That's a Chungus Long Boy. But there's the website, Geoscience World, Seismological Research Letters. I wonder. So if you look this up right here, you should be able to find it pretty easy. I wonder if you have access to it, or if you have to. Nope, you got to buy it. Oh well. It might be worth actually buying it. And it's very serendipitous that I would come across this article because I'm actually looking into spook lights in the Savannah area. So I'll definitely see if I can't put some of her research to good use. And yeah, so there's a little something you have to look forward to, the spook lights episode. Our next article comes to us from Newsweek, and it was published on February 18th. It is titled, California Democrat Wants to Make Bigfoot Official. Now, before you get too happy about this, just understand that it's not quite the same official that you might think. But it's a step in the right direction for certain sure. So, the video associated with this is actually something that I talked about in a previous episode, if I'm not mistaken. Some people were on a train and they saw a Bigfoot walking and then crouching down, and it was disproven. I can't remember who it was. I think it was maybe one of the local auto sales, car dealership or something, trying to get people off the train to go into town. So that's already a hoax. So I don't know why they would pick that particular video. Not to mention it's also in Colorado. It's not actually in California. So, what do we have here? A California Democrat lawmaker is pushing to give Bigfoot official recognition in the state, reviving long-running debates over the legendary creature's place in local folklore. So, what is this person wanting to do? California Assemblyman Chris Rogers has introduced a bill to designate Bigfoot as the, quote, official state cryptid, end quote. Um, I mean, that's pretty cool. I would definitely do it. Sounds pretty cool. It's not going to hurt anything. And in fact, it would actually, give some protections more than likely. The problem is, and this, color me superstitious, but the bill is it's the wrong number, guys. I'm sorry. I wouldn't vote for that bill even if you paid me to. And it was introduced by Rogers on Valentine's Day. So that's kind of interesting. And basically, the law reads existing law establishes the state flag and the state's emblems, including, among other things, the golden poppy as the official state flower and the California redwood as the official state tree. So basically, under the authority of already existing law, the bill would simply add another symbol, putting Bigfoot as the official state cryptid. And apparently, under Governor Gavin Newsom, California has 42 official state symbols. And most of them, it seems like, were created back in 2024, which is kind of interesting. I know that Georgia has many different symbols. Like we have a state amphibian, we have a state reptile, state tree, state bird, state flower, all that good stuff. And now it looks like California, or at least this one gentleman here, is trying to be the first to christen a state cryptid. Which, I mean, if any place was going to do that, it should be someone on the on the West Coast. If not California, then Washington or Oregon for sure, I would say. And then it goes in here and it talks a little bit more about cryptid hominids as well as Bigfoot itself. And the bill does not require an appropriation. Obviously, there's no money for it. I'm not sure people, well, I was about to say I'm not sure people would fund it, but they would most definitely fund it with as much crazy things as are being funded currently. So it wouldn't require any money. Great. It will now go straight to the floor for a vote. It will need a majority vote to pass. It is not clear when the bill will go to the floor. So that's really all I know about this particular bill. I've tried to find Mr. Rogers, and you can't email him unless you live in his district. So one of the things that politicians have done, and I can't really fault them for this, is they don't provide their email. They provide you with a contact form. So you go to their website, go to contact us, and then you have to fill in your particulars and then the message and hit submit. And if your address is not, if your zip code is not within their district, it'll come back and be like, hey, you need to find your representative because it's not me. So I tried reaching out, tried to email him. Unfortunately, because I am in Georgia, obviously my zip code is not in his district. So I was unable to do that. And I really couldn't find anything else on it. There are other outlets besides Newsweek that are carrying the story currently. So if you want to just kind of Google it, I know I'm going to try to keep an eye on it. And that was last week. So it's almost been exactly a week tomorrow. So maybe they will, in fact, do that. I know there are places in the United States which have became sanctuary cities or sanctuary counties specifically for Bigfoot, which, again, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because this thing's not supposed to exist, and yet here we have city halls and commissions and whatnot, putting protections for it. And I do want to make a point here for those people who want to go out and they do want to bag a Bigfoot, and I understand completely. I completely understand why you feel like you have to do that, why it's necessary. But I do want to point out that technically, depending on what kind of critter this is, if it is technically a homo, um, then you might actually consider that someone. I mean, you could. What's the saying? You can prosecute a ham sandwich. Somebody out there is going to try to stretch that to say that it's homicide if this particular um, creature is in fact in the Homo. I can't remember what that is. I guess it's the genus. Um, and there's evidence to say that it probably is. I mean, if you read David Paulides' book, what's it called, Wild Men and Giants? There's several accounts in that book where people have successfully bred with Bigfoot. So they're definitely of the human kind. Not humankind, one word, but human and kind, two words. Kind of like how, horses, donkeys, mules, and zebra are all the equine kind. They're the horse kind, right? So they can all interbreed. And if it's true, these stories that, Bigfoot can interbreed with modern day Homo sapiens sapiens, well, then they are part of the human kind. So, just some food for thought. I hope that California does it. I mean, that would be pretty cool. I would really hope that might push other states to do the same. I mean, I can't imagine why Washington or Oregon wouldn't also claim Bigfoot as their state cryptid. And you have the Falk monster in where is that, Arkansas, I think. They could do the same thing. Many states could, really. I mean, Bigfoot's all over the United States, but that is this week's cryptid news. Our first UFO article comes to us from Turkey Today, and it was published on February 18th, titled UFO Alert in Turkey's Gaziantep, Flights Halted. So, flights were suspended at Gaziantep Airport on Monday night after pilots reported a luminous, unidentified flying object. At around 10 p.m. local time, that is Zulu +3 or Greenwich Mean Time +3, pilots of an aircraft reported spotting a bright, unidentified object at an altitude of approximately 8,000 to 10,000 feet. UFO alert in Turkey's sixth largest city led to a brief chaos at the airport. Gaziantep is located in southern Turkey near the Syrian border. So yeah, I would imagine it probably would cause a little bit of chaos. The object did not appear on radar, and it was reported to air traffic control, prompting authorities to halt flights as a precaution. One Turkish expert claimed that it could be Starlink. I suppose that's possible. But I mean, Starlink's not a very big satellite. So, I mean, I don't think it would be very luminous. Well, maybe. That being said, there's also the possibility that it was a drone. Following the suspension, authorities conducted an investigation in and around the airport. And after confirming that there was no immediate threat, flights were resumed about 3 hours later. So, this isn't the only incident of an airport being shut down this year. In fact, not quite a month ago, on January 29th, pilots at Istanbul's Sabiha Gökçen Airport received a traffic collision avoidance system warning. So this is basically something that's kind of like radar. It tells you when you're about to run into something, right? If there's something out there, it's physical, it's an object, you're going to hit it, don't hit it, right? So the authorities were unable to determine what the source of these alerts were. So this is something that air traffic control didn't know about. It must not have been on their radar. But it was something that the planes were picking up. And while it could have been a drone, there was a massive search on land, in the air, and even out to sea, and no conclusive evidence was ever found. So basically, what transpired is one of the pilots called into the tower saying, "On final approach at 300 feet, we received a traffic alert. It could be a drone or another aircraft. For your information." To which the tower responded, "Sir, we have been dealing with this for the past 2.5 hours. Several flights before you also received this warning. We have reported it to the coastal authorities." So, again, something else that went on for just about 3 hours. And to my knowledge, we haven't heard anything yet out of Turkey as to what it could have been. So, one luminous object that wasn't on radar shut down this airport, and then another object which must not have been luminous, and also probably not on radar. I don't know why it doesn't say that in here. Shut down this airport almost a month, not quite a month, in between. So things are in the air over there, which there is precedent for this, whereas UAP or UFO activity will increase in areas that are in or adjacent to war zones. So we'll be keeping an eye on this and seeing if whether or not we ever get a confirmation as to what it may or may not have been. So that's international news. Let's bring it back home here. This particular article is coming to us from The Hill, and as you can see, it was also published, or it was put up on February 18th, entitled "House Republicans Demand UFO Transparency." And here is the lady who is hopefully going to be heading it up and getting some stuff done. This is Representative Anna Luna, a Republican representative from Florida. And essentially, January 12th, which it's been a minute ago, right? That's over a month ago at this point. Her and some other people had a classified briefing with the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, Thomas Monomer. What came of that? I don't really know. But what we do know is that a couple days ago, she wrote some letters to people saying that, hey, we need your information if you have any. So let's get into the article here. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat, New York, and some of President Trump's most vocal supporters in the House do not agree on much, but that they are in agreement that the government is holding critical information on UFOs, and they are withholding it from the American people. Schumer and key House Republicans say the government must come clean on what it knows about the decades-long mystery, which has seen 80 years of highly credible, consistent, multi-witness reports of objects exhibiting extreme performance characteristics. So, I mean, yeah, that really puts very concise on what exactly it is we're looking for. So, February 11, which is pretty much about a month. So, yeah, January 12th, February 11th, almost exactly a month after they had their classified briefing with the the intelligence community IG. The House Oversight Committee Chairman, James Comer, who's Republican from Kentucky, announced the establishment of the Task Force on the Declassification of Federal Secrets, to whom Representative Luna is a member. And it's my understanding that Luna she's been pushing for UFO transparency for quite some time now. So in letters that Comer and Luna sent, including to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, they basically said, hey, we're going to request all your records that you have in your possession, if any, about UAPs. So, yeah. And I think it's kind of cool how they have a little bit of, partisan here, where they have Chuck Schumer in here talking about other things as well. And I don't remember if it's in this article or not. I think it is. But effectively, Schumer had at some point put in for a bill that it never passed, but he wanted essentially to pass a bill to try to declassify UFO stuff. And while on the surface that seems very good and very benevolent, part of the bill, and I'm kind of glad it didn't pass if it did. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think it did. It would be that the federal government essentially would take those secrets, declassify them, and then hand them over to private contractors, which that's a big no-no. That's a big problem. And you might be like, well, why? It's disclosure. It's like, well, no, that's not disclosure at all. If the federal government decides to hand over the information, right, and they give it to these private organizations, private organizations are not held to the same standards as the government. We cannot go and file a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act, against, Northrop Grumman or Raytheon saying, hey, I want to know whatever, right? They're going to tell you to go pound sand because, they're effectively a private citizen. That FOIA does not apply to them. So you can't just go and be like, I need to know your secrets, right? So, getting that handed over is not necessarily what we really want to do. We want it open, we want it transparent, and we want it in the public domain. If they give it to these private government contractors, it's not going to be in the public domain. It's going to be proprietary technology of these companies. So, again, to my knowledge, it didn't go through, and I'm kind of glad that it didn't. Or at least, if it did, it wasn't. Not all of it was actually signed into law. So if we look here at these letters, if you want to just follow that link, it opens up this window. And this particular letter, this one is specifically to John Ratcliffe. And here you have Committee on Oversight, Government Reform, and the Task Force on the Declassification of Federal Secrets. Basically reaching out to the director, or actually, Ratcliffe, Director CIA, for information, documents, not only about UFOs, which is in here, but it's not just about UFOs. This particular article, I don't think it really brings up. It focuses mostly on UFOs. But if you read the letter, it actually there's multiple things. So there's assassination of JFK, RFK, Dr. MLK Jr., and UAP. And that would include the existence of extraterrestrial life and other such matters at the discretion of the chairman. So that's kind of cool. I think we have UAPs, could be anything, but then also, extraterrestrial life. It's right there in the title. So I kind of wish they'd have worded it a little bit differently. Extraterrestrial presumes that these things are coming from another planet. And if, I don't want to get too much into the woo, but, let's say that these things aren't necessarily from a different planet. they're from Earth, but they're from, a different universe, right? Something parallel to us. Well, they're not extraterrestrials, right? They're interdimensional, or however you want to describe them. I wish they would put non-human intelligence or a non-human being or something of that nature. Hopefully, Ratcliffe will see that for what it is, and if they have stuff, he'll turn it over. So this particular letter, it's page 11 out of 22. A lot of this stuff is actually 2 pages, so I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that there's probably about 10, 11, maybe 12 letters in total that you can look at, and they're basically all the same. It's just, who exactly it is that it's addressed to. So if you want to check them out, the link for all this will be in the description, and you can look through all these letters. Again, the letters really are basically the same thing. It starts out saying, who's doing it, the authority that they have been given to do this, and then ending with basically a request for material. So that is the UFO news, and our last bit that we're going to talk about, since we are looking up at the sky, is going to be our space weather. So spaceweather.com, really great resource. I do recommend that you go and subscribe to their emails. They have all sorts of stuff that they do. It's really cool. This right here got my attention. Alarmingly attention. It got my attention peaked, if you will. Not panicked, peaked. So there's an asteroid out there. It's asteroid 2024 YR4, and initially in January they said it had a 1.3% chance. That went up to 2.6, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't think it's on space weather, but I think I searched another article that came up that now it's actually at 3.1%, which would make this thing the most dangerous asteroid that we know of at the moment. So 3.1% chance that it will collide with the Earth on December 2nd, 2032. So maybe the Mayans were off by a decade and a couple years. So that, that is something you might want to pay attention to. I'm just saying. And this one was on the February 18th. So if you see here, I have February 18th pulled up on this, even though it's not the 18th now that I'm recording it. But if you follow me on Facebook, Paranormal Ops 23, I did actually post about this on my Facebook. So can't say I didn't try to tell you. All right. So we are going to pop on down here. And what else do we have that's going to be coming our way? So all right, so we're kind of in this area here. Not much. We had this guy that passed us by on the 19th at not even 1 lunar distance, only 0.4 lunar distance, or excuse me, 0.7 lunar distance. And that really seems to be about the closest. We got a 2.8 lunar distance here. Again, a lunar distance is, people usually round it up about 250,000 miles. I think that's the average. I think it's closer to like 239,000 miles, if I'm not mistaken. But they normally round it up to be about 250,000. So whatever this, 0.2 of that, the lunar distance would be, that's how close it's going to come to the Earth. So we have the velocity, diameter. So sky, 8 meters, not very big. Wouldn't really worry about that one terribly much. Definitely, wake you up in the morning. And then this guy here, February 21st, which as of the recording of this is actually tomorrow. It's 21 meters. So again, nothing massive, and it is going to be outside the lunar orbit. So nothing to look forward to, or nothing to look too much out of the ordinary here coming up in the next week or so. We do have this one in March. We have this one here in March, but they're at least 2 lunar distances. All right. So that is our UFO news as well as space weather. And now for our last news article of the day. So this is from End Times Meditation. It is on Substack.com. Published February 17. And the title is Presentiment, Experiments, and the Frontiers of Consciousness, Physical and Philosophical Implications. So I'm not going to go through and read the whole article. It is not terribly long, the way that it's laid out here, and it's also in quite large font. That is not magnification on my end. That's just how big it actually is on this webpage. So there's not a ton of it here. It just seems like there's a lot because of how big the font is. So it's an interesting read. I would most definitely recommend reading it. And effectively, the question that they look to answer is, signals that are coming from your brain or coming from somewhere that then gets you to act, right? So think of it like this, right? You think of a red apple or a yellow banana, right? And someone says that, and those images, they pop into your head. You think about it. Or let's say you go to put your hand on a hot stove, and you yank your hand away. Well, where did that thought come from? Because it takes time, right? We do run on electricity, but we're chemoelectric, right? It's chemical reactions. Chemical reactions take time, and your burning hand on the hot stove, right? It moves faster than your chemoreceptors can possibly fire and to get even to the tips of your fingers. Which, granted, that might not be necessarily something that's within the realms of parapsychology. That might actually be something within the realms of neuroscience, where people have come to the conclusion that quite possibly the spine might actually have more effect than we previously thought, but I digress. Here in this article, I just want to highlight a couple of things that are interesting. So, non-local information processing. Presentiment challenges the assumption that physiological responses are strictly reactive. Instead, it implies a form of temporal non-locality, where future emotional stimuli retroactively influences autonomic nervous system activity. So, taking you back to, I don't even know if it would have been a high school biology. It would have been physiology and anatomy probably, but autonomic. So you basically have a couple different subsections of your nervous system. Autonomic is the one that happens automatic, right? So like fight or flight, right? You don't have to think about it. It kicks in and it's gone. That would be with the sympathetic nervous system. And then you have your autonomic functions like your heartbeat, breathing, right? Those things are, breathing's kind of, it can be either or. You can do it voluntarily or you can just let it happen, right? So this is saying that there's something that's outside of time, outside of your location, that is affecting how you're going to respond. And one of the experiments that they did in this paper was basically they had images, that they were going to show to a person. It was hooked up to a random number generator, so there was no particular order of what you would be shown, the images. Some were calm, some were, how do they put it? Emotionally charged, I think is what their verbiage that they used. Yeah, emotionally charged. And basically, the indicators of stress, the physiological indicators, actually appeared before the image did. That is, like, that's crazy, right? That is completely crazy. So this aligns with the quantum retrocausality models, where future events affect the past states through entangled timelines. Bro, we are getting all up in that Snyderverse right here. You better call Barry Allen to stop his shenanigans, right? That's basically what this is. And then the other thing here, we have neurobiological pathways. Functional MRI studies suggest that the amygdala and insula, those are parts of the brain involved with emotional processing, exhibit pre-stimulus activation. This may reflect a preparatory neural mechanism, though how much anticipation occurs remains unclear. So, I mean, obviously some information's coming from somewhere, and while it might be preparatory, your brain, of all the things that it could be, like, something has to put your brain in drive, right? If your car, your brain is in neutral, something has to tell it to shift into gear. So that's got to come from somewhere. And the more you think about how consciousness works and how much we don't know of how it works, it gets much weirder, because it's like, where did these thoughts originate? The thought of having a thought, right? And then we have this other one, the energy conundrum. Presentiment effects occur without apparent energy transfer. So that shouldn't be possible, right? So this is contravening classical thermodynamics. This has led to speculation about quantum vacuum fluctuations or zero-point energy as potential mediators. So I'm not 100% sold on zero-point energy. Then again, I haven't really read into it. Again, also, I'm not a physicist here. If anything, I would maybe class myself as a philosopher, if anything. So, yeah. So that in and of itself is just absolutely crazy. And then you go and you read on through the paper, rethinking temporal linearity, basically the flow of time is maybe not how we thought it was. Consciousness is fundamental. What is consciousness? What is it? What even is free will? Because then you get into determinism, right? So, I mean, now we're getting into Loki seasons 1 and 2, really. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Now, this particular one does go on to say that it doesn't necessarily it doesn't necessarily mean it is deterministic, right? So there's a lot of good information here. I would definitely say take time, sit down, read this this blog post here, because it's very interesting. It's great food for thought. And if you are a person who is if you're interested in parapsychology, this right here, this is like the cutting edge of parapsychology, right? What is consciousness? Where does it come from? How does it happen? Are we conscious? Do we have consciousness? Or are we borrowing it from somewhere else, right? There's all sorts of philosophical questions that are just simply unanswerable. And, that's where the fun lies, is trying to get to these mysteries. So again, the title is Presentiment Experiments and the Frontiers of Consciousness, Physical and Philosophical Implications. It's by Elliot Middleton, and it's on Substack. I would recommend definitely giving this a read. All right, folks. Well, that's all I have for you here this week. Do make sure to come and find us on our social media platforms: YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook as well. Twitter and Facebook are on the same ones. Actually, you know what? Don't bother with Twitter because my Twitter account has been suspended. So as of right now, I haven't been posting to it because I can't. And I've emailed them, tried to get my account back. Doesn't look like it's going to happen, so I'm probably just going to have to close that account and just create a new one. But it will be the same if I can get it. It'll be the same handle. And YouTube, I am going to upload to YouTube. Unfortunately, they're not doing much for me. I don't know. It's weird. Not that I didn't have a ton of viewers or subscribers there anyway, but I went over to Rumble where I had uploaded some stuff and I hadn't really advertised it at all, and I had over 100 views on most of my videos. So yeah, I think I'm going to be heading over to Rumble. That's probably going to be my premier spot now. Not saying that I won't upload to YouTube, because obviously I'm going to continue to do that. But I don't think I have much of a future on YouTube, so if you want to join the crowd and join the rebellion, I guess you could say, come on over to Rumble. See me there. I do have a channel there. I've had a channel there for about the same amount of time that I had it on YouTube. I didn't post much there simply because the licensing on my music, what I was paying for it, only allowed me one platform to post to. So this particular episode doesn't have any music on it yet. I haven't re-upped my subscription yet. I'm planning on it. It looks like probably Rumble is going to be my main site from here. So I want to take a minute and talk about some events really quick. So if you come to my website, paranormaloperator23.com, drop down menu under community resources, we have our calendar, and it is updated. I have updated it here recently, and I've been continuing to update it. I've been adding more and more to it. And if you have an event that you would like to put on my calendar here, I would be more than happy. It is free. All you got to do is just shoot me an email, paranormaloperator23@gmail.com, and be like, hey, here's the name, date, and a link, and then I'll put it up. So these are the events that we have coming up. Here's February, here's March. I will be at the Shadows of Savannah Paracon, which will be next weekend, next Saturday. And if you want to come see me, come out and see me. I'll be there taking reports, doing interviews. Hopefully, I'll get some good material, and hopefully people will want to come and speak with me. I'd really hope that would be the case. I don't know how big the event's going to be. It seems like it really, from the Facebook side of things, it doesn't seem like too many people are interested, or at least not many people have said they're going. So hopefully it'll be a good event. If not, oh well, I'll still be there. It's going to be 9 to 5. So here's the Best Western Premiere, 103 Sand Drive, Pooler, Georgia. So the tickets are $10 to get in, so it's actually, it's actually a pretty good price. It does appear, however, that they are sold out, so that's cool. They might have some at the door. I'm not really sure, but yeah, you can come out, see us, and talk to us. Maybe you can get on the podcast here. And then here's some other events. I'm not going to be going to any of these. Got my first international event listed here. So if you follow that URL, it's going to take you to a website that's supposed to be in English. It is not, and you can't like right click and select or translate because it's not text. It's images. Like someone took a picture of the Spanish website and just uploaded that onto the English website. So I apologize for that, but it is there. The events that I'm going to try to make it to, one in April here, I'm going to try to go back to Florida, Ocala, Florida, for the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference. I want to try to make it to that one. And then, where else at? Right here. So this one, Myrtle Beast Bigfoot Festival. That's going to be in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina in May. I am going to be there. I'm going to have a table, and I might be speaking. I don't know yet. I might. But I'm definitely going to have a table there. I'm definitely going to be there. And then, did I leave off? There's another conference I'm going to be at. Let me see here. So, yep, I forgot it on the website. So there's another one called Encounters Conference, and that is going to be March 14th, and that's in Jonesboro, Georgia. So I got to update that, and then looks like I might have left another one. So I am going to be at the Georgia Bigfoot Conference. I have a table. I will be there. Again, I might speak. I don't know if I'm going to be speaking. Probably not at this point. I think they have all their speakers lined up. But here's the lineup. Obviously, Jessica Jones, lovely woman, great podcaster. You can find her, the Cryptid Huntress. I know she's on YouTube. She's going to be there, as well as Stacy Brown. He's going to be there, as well as these other guys here. And again, I'm going to be there as a vendor. I'll have a table, and again, just taking reports, talking to people, pressing the flesh. This one is March 21 to 22nd. So here's the particulars. It's going to be in Demorest, Georgia, at the Piedmont University. So I hope to see you guys out there. I'm going to get this updated as soon as I get off here. And, if you want to see us, if you want to see me, great. I'd love to talk to you. If you want to be on the podcast, just shoot me an email. I'm more than willing to listen to your account. I'm more than willing to take your report. And if it seems like something I might be able to investigate, if you want to give me the location that is, I'd be more than happy to come out and hopefully get to the bottom of some of it. So, guys, that's all I have for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I apologize for the audio quality. I just moved. This is a new computer, and I'm still working on things. So, apologize for that. And I don't have a schedule yet as to when I'm going to be posting broadcasting, I guess you want to say. But it will be happening. It will be happening, and I'm hoping it will be happening at least once a week. I'm kind of in between jobs at the moment, so having moved, having had to get a new computer, and not having a stream of income at the moment, I'm not really sure how often I'll be able to post a podcast episode. But again, want to try to do it at least once a week. Most of it's going to be news. I'm going to be doing more investigations. I've got several places lined up, and I'm even at this moment helping to organize a conference, which is also not on our calendar yet because it's not set in stone. But if you are in southeastern Georgia and you have an experience or an account of some kind of ghost, high strangeness, folklore, legend, UFO, Bigfoot, whatever, Ultima Haha, I will be being a speaker. In fact, I will be the keynote speaker with Jessica Jones, should everything come together. Hopefully it's going to be August 23rd in Brunswick, Georgia. It is the Southeast Georgia Ghosts and Legends Conference. So I will have more information on that as details develop. So hopefully I'll see some of you guys there. And if you enjoyed what you heard, great. If you didn't enjoy it, well, I thank you for staying around this long. I do ask that you please do like, share, subscribe, find us on our social media accounts, follow us there on just about any of the main platforms. It's going to be either Paranormal Operator 23 or Paranormal Ops 23. And until next time, keep searching in the darkness.